What is up, dudes? Welcome back to the channel. It's me, of course, the one and only Sugi Strategy here, and today I'm gonna be reviewing a brand new game called Mutant Year Zero Road to Eden, and which was released yesterday, and this review will be based on the PC version of the game. You can also pick it up for PS4 and Xbox One. So what is the premise of the game? What is the gameplay like? So it is self-proclaimed to be a tactical adventure game, and it's very in vein with XCOM. So similar to XCOM, you have the turn-based combat. You move multiple units around the map, and you're able to move behind debris, wall, and move around different floors of buildings to take cover and shoot from them. And in a similar way, you have guns, grenades, and other types of, abilities that you can use in a strategic manner, and in a similar vein to XCOM. And also, you have this sort of a free roam thing. So before you actually enter to the combat, you are able to roam around the map and loot different items and scraps, which you can take to the base to, buy items or improve your existing guns with attachments and other things. And you have the enemies patrolling around the map, and they have this sort of a red circle around them, which is kind of like the eye of sight. And if you enter that, red ring, essentially you get engaged in combat, and the enemies will ambush you, and they will have the first turn. But if you are the initiator of the combat, you are able to start first. And essentially that's where the stealth mechanics come into the game, because you have silenced weapons where you can take out patrolling units around the map before engaging with the whole big crowd of enemies. And in certain maps you can just stealth through the whole level. Not all the time that is possible, and obviously you want to level up your characters, because otherwise you will be underleveled and you can't beat the very, very tough enemies. And there's a lot of strategy that goes into that stealth mode, and more about that later on. But in terms of the story premise, it is based on a tabletop game of the same name, which I have not played. And it takes place in Sweden, and as a Scandinavian, there's a lot of things I can relate to, such as the nature of things and a lot of the names and the words here. And it's a post-apocalyptic world, and it is a causation by the crazy migration policies that's happening on Sweden right now. No, I'm just kidding. So essentially a virus broke down and a lot of people died, and some people were actually able to mutate, such as one of the major characters. You play a pig, and you also play a dog, and you will be seeing some other characters as well. And essentially, well, they work for this. Well, there's this safe haven known as the Ark, where the mutants and the humans live, and then they, scavenge around, the nearby places for food and, equipment and other goods. And then one day, in the very beginning of the game, one guy named Hammon, who is another stalker, which is the people who are essentially the scavenger, was kidnapped or went into essentially to a patrol with other units, and then the whole main crew is pretty much sent to find him out where he is. And then you go into this very big journey around the whole map of Sweden, and essentially there will be some story developments, but it's a very straightforward story. The story is not the main premise here. It's not very rich. The characters have little to no background story. They have this sort of you will have 5 characters in the game, and 3 of them you can have on the map at the same time. You can swap around them long as you're not in combat, okay? And essentially, the story is kind of revolving around the origin of the mutants, but you don't have one specific background story for each of the characters, and you don't get to know a lot about them. Yes, they will have some dialogue as you scavenge through the map, and they will comment on certain things, such as ancient, technology, which was left by, humans like us, and there's kind of funny jokes there, and there's few references with Scandinavians can only understand some of the names that exist in there, and it's kind of funny. And obviously you can see the nature and the trees, especially in the very Scandinavian look. So the story is not really the main focus of the game. It's kind of cliche. It doesn't have many developments or major characters that will have these amazing plot twists. It's there kind of just, have a story, I guess, is better than no story, I suppose. And the game was, for me, around 14 hours, and that is almost the completionist run, almost the 100% run. So I did enter to every zone. I almost completed pretty much every zone except maybe the last two. 100%. As I said, you can skip certain parts. You don't have to fight every goddamn enemy. So the combat itself, you know, I liked it. It's well done. There's a lot of detail and depth to it. However, it did get a bit old because in certain aspects you were really forced to use stealth, and I don't like that in general. Like, I like games where I can choose to play that stealth play style, or I can go guns blazing, or a mixture between the two. I don't hate the mix, but there were definitely a lot of scenes where you really had to like take out certain enemies one by one on the map before you could like go battle on the whole crew, because it was almost impossible to beat certain, like, you know, enemies, especially when they had like some mind controlling abilities which would take your character on their side for 3 turns. These were kind of broken. I mean, you get a character who can do that too, obviously. And in terms of the, you know, obviously you would expect in a strategy game there would be a lot more, you know, replayability. Yes, there's difficulties, and one where you can't save or reset or something like that. And yeah, in difficulty aspects there's replayability, but I always argued that even playing game on hard or something is not truly, it's just a challenge, but it's not really a factor of replayability in my point of view. The problem in the game is that you have 5 characters. I won't go detail who they are, but Duck and the Pig are one of them, and then there's the one-horned girl who is also seen on the release trailers. And some of the characters have identical abilities. So the Hog, for example, has this sort of a hog rush thing, which is very powerful, one of the best abilities in the game. And then you have like 2 characters that, you know, can grow wings on their back and move around. But the problem is that 3 of the other characters outside the Hog and this one human guy, who's this sort of like a Professor Xavier, so to speak, they had a lot of overlapping abilities. And they didn't have like one ability that was truly unique to them. Their skill trees, yes, were unique, but you didn't have one specific unique ability to each character, which I thought was lazy design. Okay, I thought that this would bring a lot more diversity to playing the game, and maybe playing it with a different setup would have been making it very interesting. In terms of the weapons, overall you can like upgrade them to up to the level 3, and you can add 2 attachments to them. And there is a, you know, fair amount of guns, but maybe not so much in terms of like building it up to a very, very different playstyle, because you can't like, at least I didn't find like silencer attachments to these weapons. So you could have like run like a whole silencing weapon like setup or something. That was not possible. And in terms of the graphics, I think they're pretty good. Obviously you can see a bit of a frame drops in my recording, sorry for that. And the you know, there's exploration and the detail. What I like about it is that, you know, when you enter the battle, it's not like there's going to be a loading screen or anything. The exploring map is the same map as the turn-based combat map, which is kind of neat, you know. I don't think I've seen that much in many games. I mean, it's not very not very like normal. And overall, I mean, it was very decent game. Is it worth its price? I mean, it's priced at $35. And that valuation is very on the border. It's 14 hours worth of that money, because you can buy some of those indie games which can offer you 10 hours for $19.90, you know. But obviously if you're a big XCOM fan, strategy games always been a bit more expensive. This is just a factual thing, and you know, that's the thing. But I was kind of hoping for a bit longer campaign, because there's no multiplayer in the game. So, you know, as I said, I almost did the full 100% run. Maybe you would expect maybe 20 hours from a game like this, especially when we're talking about only the single player experience. And as I concluded earlier, like, there's not really that much variety on playing on different types of comps and characters, because they don't differ in the end of the day that much from each other. Yes, some of the people are more orientated to being a bit tanky, and some have like a bit more you know, the telekinesis guy, he has a pretty interesting set of abilities, and he differs quite a lot from the couple of others. But I mean, overall, like, there were also abilities. I mean, there's a lot of customization, obviously, in the way that you can't have all the abilities active, so you have to choose one passive and 2 active abilities on for each mutant from the skill tree. But, I mean, in terms of, as I said, the story wasn't really that magnificent. The voice actors, there was really a lot of the fucking ghouls, which are the enemies in the whole thing. They were like screaming, like fucking having potatoes in their mouth. That was probably more, that's really annoying to hear, and this sounds always very unprofessional and very uncreative in a lot of ways. I mean, that's just me. The voice acting cast could have done, like, if they had like more money, they could have maybe casted some better guys and more like I just didn't find like the Duck's voice actor really fitting, to be honest. And there was some of these aspects that kind of, you know, yeah, there are some imperfections on the game, but this, why I'm saying this is because there's a possibility for, if there's a second game coming out, I want to see more characters, I want to see more abilities, more customization, and a longer campaign. And maybe if this game sells a lot, you know, it proves the concept for them, and they will decide to do that. And, you know, maybe they could have, like, yes, they, you know, route some like these letters which you can find on the map where there's a bit of lore and stuff like that. But I would maybe have like audio files that some of the people have done in other games in terms of good way to lore, audio logs. But I mean, it was a decent game, you know. The OST wasn't too specifically insane or interesting, something that I wouldn't listen outside of the game, but you know, it brought the atmosphere a bit to the game, so good for that. But I mean, it could have been a lot better game, but you have to be realistic. Obviously, it's a small team that made the game, so in terms of that, they did a good job. But maybe I had a bit higher expectation on the game. A bit longer game would have been better, and a bit of more customization. Maybe they run out of time, because I thought that the talent trees was kind of, to be honest, a bit lazy. But I mean, still recommend the game, especially if it's on sale. If you're a big fan of XCOM and you want, you know, play games like that, like Fire Emblem and so on. You know, I love the genre in that sense. So this was a treat for me. And yes, I didn't pay for the game. I received a review copy. I thought I would disclose that. And, you know, that's pretty much my thoughts about the game. And, you know, it was a decent game, you know. But, you know, let's hope that there will be a second game, though. And I think they get to a lot more money and improvements and longer game overall. And I've seen that happen in the past with some of the other games, strategy games, and with a significant improvement on the predecessor. And maybe this is kind of like a proof of a concept where there's going to be people who are interested in this type of game and so on. I mean, also, like, why would you, like, create human characters if you're going to have mutants like pig and a duck? Maybe just throw in a hyena or a fucking lion. That could have been crazy, too. Human characters are always kind of lame. And that's something that they should have done a bit more better writing on the characters, more background story, or obtainable information at least about them. But I won't ramble any longer about this game. I had to say what I had to say about it, and I will see you guys next time on the next review.
Oh, will you look at that? IZZA and FALA. Oh, ain't that sweet?